Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton. Today's guest is Dr. Kathia Roberts, a very good friend of mine, and we'll be speaking on ancient teachings for the modern motherhood journey. Dr. Kathia is an international speaker, naturopathic doctor, medicine woman, herbalist, sound healer, and spiritual teacher. She lovingly facilitates transformative tours to Egypt, hosting a supportive community and soul deepening through her Soar Mystery School. Her own awakening journey has resulted in a shift in her clinical practice over the last 17 years to focus more on healing ceremonies, sound journeys, motherhood initiations, womb healings, women's circles, shadow and inner child work, and mythological archetypal exploration. For more information, check out her website at drkathia.com or on Instagram at Frequency Alchemist. Hi, Dr. Kathia. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Laura. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So Kathia and I go back many, many, many years. We've known each other for a very long time. We're soul sisters when it comes to holistic health and specifically supporting women perinatal, all things preconception, pregnancy, birth oriented. And I'm just so, first of all, I want to say I'm so grateful to have you as a colleague and a friend. And I just am so excited for you to share your wisdom with my listeners today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So you've been on the podcast in the past, a few years ago, and we kind of focused on the work that you do as a naturopath. But so much has changed and evolved for you over the past few years that you now are having such a strong calling to working with Egypt and all things ancient teachings and Egyptian. And so we decided that today's podcast, we're going to focus on really what can these ancient teachings teach us as women in our modern motherhood journey. So I'd love for you to start off with just sharing kind of your personal story of how you went from being a naturopath and an herbalist and to now how you're, getting called to the Egyptian work.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, actually, in ancient Egypt, it's amazing. They were so advanced with medical advancements as well as with energetic modalities, vibrational medicine, sound healing, and, it's these energetic portals. And once I opened myself up through motherhood and through my children to be more receptive to these connections with the unseen realm and these energetic interactions, I opened myself up spiritually more and to work with certain teachers. And I've done a few pilgrimages to Egypt, and yes, it just flooded in the ancient mysteries and calling me to become a teacher and, with my shamanic healing, weaving that in. So still offering the support on a physical, but then also supporting mentally, emotionally, and on the spiritual path to feed into those metaphysical expressions why a patient is dealing what they're dealing with, whatever that shows up to be. So that's really, and it's helped me personally grow and evolve and how I mother and just how I show up in the world. And I'm very grateful for Egypt being my teacher in that way.
I love it. And I think as women, we have these opportunities for growth at an exponential level when we become mothers, right? And we can choose to do the work or not. But I feel like it's so powerful to do it not only for ourselves first, but like you mentioned, how it impacts you as a mother and how you're actually mothering your children, I guess in maybe a more evolved way as you become more open and conscious.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And also mothering the inner child. I think so often as a mother, we are neglecting that inner child piece of ours, and we can get triggered and traumatized by also how our children is mirroring certain things for us that we are neglecting or not attending to. So, now it's just a perfect opportunity to reflect and grow and expand on that piece and attend to our inner child as well.
Mm-hmm. So I remember when you went on your first trip to Egypt. I guess that was 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yes, yeah.
And that's where I just feel like you completely fell in love.
Completely fell in love. I didn't want to leave.
You did not want to leave, even though your family was still here in New Jersey. You're like, I don't want to come home. I am home.
I am home. Yes, it actually reminded me. I think as mothers, we are so often, we always just giving, and we're always available for everybody else but ourselves. And going there in that way, really on a spiritual sojourn, was like, and pilgrimage was like, it was something for me, and it brought me back to me, and I was able to harvest my own soul elements and reminded me of who I truly am. And actually, every time I do my Egyptian circles and teachings, my daughter is like, "Mommy, take me to Egypt. I want to go to Egypt with you. You're so happy when you do anything Egypt." So it's also mirroring to them, when we do something we really called for and that feels like our purpose and we enjoying it, they see our joy and they reflect that back to us, and they appreciate us in that element and taking also time to tend to ourselves. And I've noticed, like, why I'm putting sort of like ceremony and pilgrimage as a form of medicine is when you remove yourself out of your current mundane situation, you're able, and that's why I call it Soar with Dr. Kathia, you're able to soar above and have a different perspective of your life and the elements in it and how you relate to your life. And you can come back with a filled cup, able to give and serve more.
And what a beautiful mantra for all women, because in general, even if we're not mothers yet, we're typically caretakers, right? We're taking care of a partner or our parents. That's what we do as women, right? And when the problem happens when we give, and then we're so depleted that we have nothing left to give. And that's where we see sickness and dis-ease occur when we are out of balance that way.
Yes, absolutely. And when we don't show up in our own truth, in our own authenticity. So, yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. So when you were in Egypt, and now you've been a couple times and you're planning some upcoming trips in the near future, which I'm excited for you to share with us in a little bit, you learned a lot about how there's a very strong motherhood theme in these ancient Egyptian sites. So I'd love for you to share a little bit what you learned about that.
Sure. Well, basically the motherhood theme is, everywhere in Egypt. In all the hieroglyphs, you can see images of the goddesses nurturing and suckling either their children or the pharaoh. It was seen as a very sacred act, and also birth houses, mamisis. Every temple have a mamisi, and the mamisis is adorned with hieroglyphs of priestesses on their tambourines and their sistrums and singing and dancing. They used music to usher in the soul, and it was a beautiful space where women gathered and supported each other, and it was a sacred space, with incense and herbs and flowers and offerings, and then we also have the divine birthing room, so in Luxor Temple, which is like divine conception. They even seen, and also how the pharaoh, in order to be seen as connected to the divine and to the gods, it was this whole act of divine conception, where sort of the Amen would step in to provide that divine conception, so that the queen is divine in herself and giving birth to a divine child. And then there's hieroglyphs of, also semen just representing life and that life-giving, the whole. So they just place, and the birthing stools, even though if you go to Komombo, which is a healing temple, they have all these hieroglyphs of all the surgical tools they use, and Isis on her birthing chair birthing. I'm sure they would have been able to do a C-section back then if they needed to, because they were just so advanced. But, they just put so much emphasis on these healing frequencies and being a supportive and sacred environment. And this is what you see throughout. And then obviously working with the mythology as archetypal exploration, you have motherhood archetype themes that you can explore in the Egyptian pantheon, so to speak. The deities that can provide teachings and wisdom on these aspects as well.
Wow, that's so fascinating. So I've always, I've heard different documentaries that these ancient Egyptians, because they were so advanced, that they had some sort of alien DNA to help them have all these ideas and thoughts. And somehow, like, how do we get away from that? It's like we regressed.
Well, these were in the golden ages, when we were more a matriarchal community. And then, we were moving more and more away from the divine into the egotistical realms and very masculine. And now it's the return of the feminine, return to the mother. Whether we are male or female, we all have motherhood traumas and need to work with that mother element because we all come from the mother. And also what I love about in Egypt mythology and teachings is that it is that balance between the divine masculine and divine feminine, because actually your ka, which is your spiritual body, and your ba, that's your physical body, is opposite sex. So they truly embrace this concept that we have this duality.
Oh, the yin yang.
Yes. And it's all about balancing that. And when we, and nurturing the other aspects if it's falling short. So there's so much to be empowered by in ancient Egyptian teachings and stories, even of Hatshepsut, that was a pharaoh and, and just woman in power, woman taking the lead and nurturing and fulfilling all these roles in so many ways.
So that's interesting, because when I'm thinking of ancient Egypt, and I haven't studied it nearly to the depth that you have, I am thinking that the person in power was a man, like the pharaoh, right? Were there any women that were, but you're mentioning women also were very powerful.
Yes, very powerful. And even for the pharaoh, if you think of Ramses II with Nefertiti, she was seen as his consort and as his equal. So, and even in Egypt today, if you speak to modern Egyptians, the role, even in because you have Coptic and Muslim traditions there, and I know us as Westerners have a certain perspective on the Muslim tradition, but if you go to Egypt and you also speak to them and get their perspective on how they see their mothers and the role that the mother play, it's really absolutely beautiful to see how she is in power in their household and calling all the shots, and she reigns the household, and how the men and the children really look up to the mother in that family construct.
Wow. So that exists to this day. And it doesn't matter the religion. Like you mentioned, there's two different religions and it's the same for both.
It's the same for both. And they actually get severely offended, because we had open discussions about this on the last trip, and they get severely offended that Westerners have such a narrow view on how the mother is perceived, even within the Muslim tradition. And it was very interesting to have an open conversation and just hear their perspective on it, and see how they view it, instead of just how sometimes we can get into a very specific perspective around, these differences.
Right. So that's something that's just like ingrained into the culture. And do you see that as well, like with the politics? You see women in power there, or is it more just women in power within their individual homes?
Luckily, Egypt compared to other Muslim countries is very forward. You have women that's physicians. You have women that kind of like is not as traditional in their Muslim culture. And they're going to grad school and they're very advanced. So, and yes, they are fulfilling other roles in the political construct too, compared to some of their neighboring countries of really strict Muslim indoctrination. So
they have more freedom.
It's a lot more freedom, and especially the young generation has really broken free from those constructs. So, and I think us as a collective, how we are collectively, globally, also moving more towards matriarchal constructs again.
I hope so. I'm ready for a woman president in the U.S. It's time.
But also you see what I really noticed, which was so beautiful to witness when I was doing a sound ceremony at Isis's temple in Philae, in the High of Holies, which is her altar. We had men. One of the pilgrimages I was on was just women, and I actually appreciate more to go on a journey with males as well, because Egypt is such a heart opener. It just blows you wide open. And to see these men, their hearts were blown open and they were crying, like they were crying to their mother in that space. It was so beautiful to witness that they could remove themselves from that ego and also from what's placed on them and their roles and their expectations, what they've been conditioned to do. And they can just show up in their divine being and receive nurturance.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think to your point, having men and women, you have that reflection, right, of both, and it creates some balance.
It creates some balance, yeah. And it's beautiful to witness them and also see them be vulnerable. And
right.
To see that they can be vulnerable and that we can hold space for them too.
And these were American men that you're talking about.
American men, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually there's some Europeans and other, cultures too. I mean, Egypt just draws people from all over the world and all walks of life. When I started focusing more on this aspect purely than just clinical medicine, and I'm having conversation with old colleagues, I'm amazed how many people and males are like, oh, I've always wanted to go there. My heart's been called there. So, and also with Isis, which is one of the main mother archetypes in Egypt, just how many men has a knowledge and a familiarity already with that mythological archetypal figure, if you like, and I've heard and is interested in those mysteries and teachings.
So for the people listening who have never heard of Goddess Isis, can you talk a little bit about who she is and how she can teach us?
Yes, so she's the goddess of many names. She's like the pure mother archetype, the mother of the gods, so to speak. And her mythology is very similar actually to Mother Mary's. And even though she predates, the Christian faith 5,000 years before Christ, but a lot of similarities. And she had so many, characteristics. She was a midwife and a healer and a magician, and she was a mother as well to Horus, and she had divine conception. So she actually, her husband Osiris, who her brother killed, Seth, and she put him back together and brought him back to life using magic. So she was a pure witch as well. But then she shape-shifted in order to conceive. And they conceived the child before he returned to the underworld, but not in a natural way. And then Horus became sort of God unto the earth. So very similar to Jesus' story, just told at a different time, in a different cultural context. So it's very interesting when these parallels amongst traditions and different religions are being drawn and stories are being told in a different way. And it's very empowering. So she is really, for me, the way she stepped in and the way I've worked with her as well, her archetype is also around grief and healing, because it was meant, the mythology or the story is she cried the Nile River into existence, how she grieved for her love, Osiris. And it's a beautiful love story to Osiris and Isis, which is really her brother and her husband.
Oh, wow.
And also how she had to hid her son away from Seth, her brother, because he was looking to kill him. And there was this war until eventually Horus, the elder, overcame Seth, his uncle. So it's these beautiful stories of just how, as mothers, we're faced with so much. We're faced with betrayal. She has suffered severe betrayal by loved ones and family members, and disappointment, and how, she was so in love, and how that was cut short, and she wasn't able to live out her love for Osiris, was her twin flame. He was sent to the underworld. So it's just all these elements of things we deal with as women, both as wives, lovers, mothers, sisters, friends. Within just her context and her stories and mythology, you can learn so much of how she overcame her adversities by just, being patient, having faith, trusting, and regaining, taking her time to regain her strength, trusting her intuition, and going deep down and utilizing all the skills that she already possesses. There's so many themes with her that one can weave through and implement and utilize.
Wow, I love that. And these are like life lessons, right, that we need as women and mothers to help us navigate, because there will be challenges ongoing in our life, right? I mean, that is part of life, and there's opportunity to how we manage those challenges, right, is the beauty here, and the growth and the wisdom.
Yeah, and staying in your grace and beauty, that's something that she always brings. And even though she's very much the nurturing archetype, then there's also Hathor, which, you need to pull in more the mother archetype of the maiden mother, sort of like the more playfulness and the more, joyous and mother. Then you'll be also drawing in some more of those qualities through your inner self-inquiry and archetypal exploration, because we all have these aspects within ourselves. It's just whether they're lying dormant, whether they're activated, whether we attuned and aligned with it or not. And then it's about just reactivating and re-embodying those qualities and just owning it and showing up in that way that we are able to harness it to our best advantage.
Wow. I love that. You briefly mentioned how Isis is also related to helping with grief. And I was hoping you could explore that a little bit more for our listeners who perhaps are dealing with miscarriage or infertility and are experiencing a lot of grief.
Yes. So, she has experienced many, many years of grief. And like I said, she cried the river into existence, and she is that one that you can come and just lay all your sorrows onto, and she'll be nurturing you and giving you a big hug, just like Mother Mary would, and tend to your wounds as she has tended to hers. And she showed up as this midwife in ancient times to mothers that was losing children, and to help them birth and see them through challenging times. So she attended to women, even in her own misery and suffering, mourning the loss of Osiris that was brutally murdered and hacked into pieces by her brother and spread all around Egypt. And eventually she founded each piece. And this is the whole thing about the determinations and the teachings that, grief takes time. It's just how you're starting to relate to grief in a different way. So it's not like the loss ever goes away. It's always there, but you just start relating to grief in a different way, and you are able to gather your strengths back and yourself back, because as she also have lost pieces of herself when Osiris died, and it's how you gather. As she was gathering his pieces, she was gathering pieces of herself too, and in honor was erecting a temple at each place where she found him. So it's also that whole teaching around really the significance of ceremony and symbolism, and like honoring and offerings, and keeping it sacred. When we've even gone through a tragic loss, it's like, honoring that experience, how things have shifted for us and changed in different ways. And how we are changed person. But there's also great things that comes with that in our growth.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So it's, I think, there is so much to learn when we watch a strong, powerful woman, whether it's a goddess or even women in our life today. We can learn how they manage these challenges and overcome with determination and grace. And I didn't hear anything about how women were supporting her during her challenges, but I'm assuming that she had some sister goddesses.
Yes. Hathor, because Seth was Hathor's husband, and Hathor was shielding and hiding Isis away and protecting Horus, her son. So, so she had her support and, and help. And this is also the teaching that it's so important to have community, have that sister support, because women can relate, all women can relate, and we don't need to suffer in silence. But I think our modern community have also made it in a way that, we always just speak about the wins and the celebrations, and that's what we put out, but we tend to suffer in silence, and our loss we keep private, and it's really good to share that and have people hold us and witness us and hold that space for us to move through the emotions that we need to move through.
Right. I mean, I see that very much currently with a lot of women view miscarriage. Like they wait until at least 12 weeks, for example, to announce a pregnancy, and because there might be a miscarriage. And it seems to me it's coming from a place of almost shame, right? If a woman miscarries, then that means that something's wrong with her body or she did something wrong. And that's obviously not true, but I feel like this, conditioning that we have currently that I would love to see shift.
Yes, oh, definitely. And I mean, I also speak from my own experiences with miscarriages, and then also the whole how we as a culture has been removed from death and birth. If you think about it, in those old days, ancient times, it wasn't, especially in the Egyptian culture. I mean, death is sacred, and they don't see it as a finality. So they also relate to death and the dying of a physical being. It's not that being is dead. It's just a continuum. They are going, and just how they see that whole path and where they're going in the afterlife and how they honor that and how they're still so deeply connected to that spirit children. It's like that is what... also give you hope, and also it's not a finality, and it was such a big part of their culture, embraced in making it a beautiful sacred initiation or rite of passage,
or even almost celebration, right?
And celebration, yeah, birth and death alike. So. And if you think now, a lot of times women, if they've miscarriage, also they don't always see the fetus. Or when people are dying, they're not dying in the homes anymore. They're just being taken away. Nobody's part of that transition and that sacred act anymore. And as well as in birthing, a lot of women birth in, it could be a hospital experience and or surgery, and it's like we're somewhat removed from this experience.
Right. And I think it is, we can kind of understand how we do get excited and celebrate birth, but we don't do the same for death typically, at least in the American culture. And, I feel like there is an opportunity it's just like, we're all born and we all die, right? Like, it's just something that it's like a universal human experience. And how can we be more comfortable with death, not only our own death, but also loved ones around us? Do you have any feedback on that?
Well, to also make them a part, the spirit children a part of still the living. It's like these cultures, like the Mexican culture that they have, for past ones and their ancestors, the Day of the Dead, it's like, and same in Egyptian culture where you would visit and they're still a part of the family construct. So it's not like they've left, they're just not in their physical form. And I feel that really helps. And I know with family constitution therapy, they also include spirit children, meaning children that has from miscarriages within the family constellation dynamic in order for every family member to have a place. And I found that fascinating because so I'm open with my children, and I honor the children I've lost, and I pray to them and connect with them, and my children knows about them, and so that's a way that and everyone has to find what does that look like for them, what's their sacred honoring or their sacred practice or ceremony that they do around connecting and including that.
Right. And I feel like what you're explaining too is showing how that person who's doing that is helping to process that grief at another level. And it's very healing to do that. And it's like harder because of the pain, when somebody, dies and there's that acute pain that we feel, we just want to push it away and suppress and ignore. And that's actually where it then can get worse, right? Instead of just taking the time to sit with it and feel with it and process it even years later.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your mystery school and your individual healing programs, and then the tours to Egypt that you have coming up.
Sure. Thank you. Well, for a few years now, I've been teaching the Egyptian mythology. I have a circle and workshop once a month, and also, usually every 2 weeks a circle, an online circle, and then once a month a workshop. And usually it's about one specific either temple or theme, and working with the archetypes and how one can apply it to your own healing, both physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And then I have mentees that works with me that I do spiritual coaching with, just to go deeper in their own practice. And if they wanted to work specifically with the Neteru, which is the Egyptian pantheon. And then, so I incorporated that into my one-on-one healing programs, still addressing things from a naturopathic perspective with herbal medicine, homeopathy, nutrition on a physical level, but then providing the support with a spiritual practice, a grounding practice, whatever that individual want to work on. If there's trauma, tending to the inner child, the shadow work, or whatever other archetypal exploration they need to do for the inner work. So that's what I do for my one-on-one programs. And then I'm also creating a self-paced online program that will be launched in the summer. That goes through these sacred sites and the ancient teachings, and one can apply it to your life with the workbook and meditations. And then basically when we go to Egypt, when I take facilitated sound healing tour to Egypt, it's like my teacher that's been leading tours for 30 years there says, Egypt, 2 weeks is like 20 years of therapy. You get 20 years of therapy in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's intense.
It's intense. It is intense. You are blown open and you experience, it's like the birth initiation. It's like that.
I felt like that when I went to Bali. It was very intense.
Very intense. You experience every feeling under the sun. And unless you know how to be with that feeling and move that energy, and that's where my job comes in, I facilitate that and help people make sense of it and move that energy and understand it. It can be quite something to integrate, and can actually be traumatic even, so it's all about how you show up, open mind, ready, and it can be magical and so transformative, like any big experience. So I have a trip coming up in September and February.
Mm-hmm. September 2021 and then February of 2022.
And it's normally aligned with the moon and the sun. All these temples are built with sun and moon alignments in mind. It just activates the energy more there. And the portals, energetic portals. And then also the sound healing aspect. I do sound ceremony and sound journeys. But the temples become alive with the sound. I mean, it was built with frequency in mind because they were just so advanced. So when you can actually, and we have a few private visits where we are totally by ourselves, no other tourists, in the pyramids, in the pores of the Sphinx, and in Isis's temple, where you can just really be with that energy and meditate and be with yourself, with your own soul, and go so much deeper.
And you bring all your sound healing instruments.
Yes, I bring quite a few. I mean, obviously with travel.
Right, not all, but you bring a good handful. And I mean, if you've never heard Dr. Kathia's sound healing, oh my God, it's so powerful. That really gets right into your chakras and gets things moving.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and the most powerful instrument is my voice. So I have that with.
That's very portable.
That's very portable. And we are on a Debaeya, which is a traditional. We can only have 18 maximum individuals on the boat, but we have our own private floating temple. So we are going as the ancients once did, from temple to temple, floating on this tugboat. It doesn't even have an engine. So you ride on the Nile, and we go swimming in the Nile. We have a barbecue on the banks of the Nile. It's like you feel like you're transported to a total different time and life and world. It's like it's quite something.
That sounds amazing. I don't think I'm going to make it this year, but I'm feeling like I'd love to join you for one of these tours. And you said it's 2 weeks?
It's 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so it's doable. It's not like a whole month I don't have to commit to.
No, and we sometimes offer like an add-on. I really want to do the White Desert Safari as well, that's also where you could sing over the bones, like Dr. Estes wrote in her Woman That Runs with the Wolves. So that's a journey I still want to provide as well at some point, probably 3 trips out from now.
Yeah. And so just to be clear, the Mystery School is what's launching this summer?
Yes, and it's already ongoing. I have monthly workshops and monthly free offerings of circles. I have a open house and the Spring Harvest Festival coming up on Tuesday, but I think when you air this might be gone already, but yeah, I have monthly events going on.
Yeah, this episode's coming out April 13th, and so before Mother's Day, but people can go to your website at drkathia.com to see what the upcoming monthly workshops are, and I guess they get a taste of the Mystery School, and then they can sign up for the whole program in the summer.
Yes, they can do that. Or I'm also going to have it as individual teachings available. So let's say if just Isis speak to somebody, or they just want to go to a specific temple like Abu Simbel, I would have that individual teachings of just that place also available. So.
Wow, that's so cool. I definitely am excited. I'm going to check out the Isis one because I am feeling called. Her name keeps coming up around me the past few weeks. So I'm like, I need to learn more about this goddess and see what I can learn from her.
Sure. She's very healing. And then, Sekhmet is another powerful one. I didn't touch on her, but she's the fierce mother archetype, fierce compassionate. So she's the one that if you need to be the mama bear and call on all your strength and also not cheat yourself and betray yourself, she's the one that calls you out on it. And I've had some amazing experiences in her temple because she's the only statue that's still in its original place.
Wow.
The only statue. So when you go to her chapel, it's like people, you can't stand. You start shaking. It's like the energy there is just phenomenal.
Is there some sort of like vortex that's in alignment with Egypt?
Totally. Yeah. No, these are all energetic portals. The Sphinx connects you to the Akashic records. It's all aligned with Sirius and the Orion's belt. So for those that's in astrology, would find a very deep connection there. Yeah. Now all the wisdom and keys are held there. The only thing why it's now waking up and people are more interested in the mystical teaching, so to speak, even more than before, is because people are becoming ready for it. They're ready to hear it. They're ready to receive it. They're ready to go deeper. Before we weren't ready. We just weren't ready for that kind of, and there's a lot of controversy around the mystical teachings and the Egyptology, because there's Egyptology and then there's things that can't be explained. So it's like we have an Egyptologist, and then when you go there, it's really like up to your own interpretation and how you experience this. What's this teaching means to you? It's not really being imposed on you like this is what it is. It's really like, how are you relating to this field and information? Did
you see any UFOs in the hieroglyphics?
Oh, yes, there's UFOs. I have photos of that. That's an Abydos. That's Osiris's temple. So yeah, that's quite where the flower of life is. That's quite something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, but I think it is fascinating. Like, and you're talking thousands of years ago. It's almost hard to wrap our head around it.
Yeah, they reckon, there's that the Sphinx predates the Ice Age.
How's that even possible?
Yeah, like they when you go there, you see the lines, and they reckon that's where the ice, when everything was frozen, where the ice came. There's like, again, controversy around exactly, is it 5,000 or 10,000 BC? There's some contradictions there.
We still don't even know. That's also fascinating. There's still so much we don't know about this, right?
That's the thing about Egypt. It's never ending. They're always finding more, always contradicting previous findings, and that's just the beauty of the mystery. And we need to keep it a mystery. And that's the same thing with the health journey. We're always just looking for the answers and trying to resolve it, that we move away from it being a journey and a mystery. It's a mystery, initiation, and journey. We're trying to get too much in our monkey brain about it instead of being in the, in our third eye and pineal gland. And when you get into the teachings, Egypt is very much about acting the pineal gland and the third eye and that higher consciousness and awakening.
Wow. And I love that you shared how, like, really life in general, whether it's our healing journey or motherhood journey, anything, our life is a journey, right? And when we're so rushing to get to the next stage, we're really missing the beauty of the journey.
We are. And these ancient sites remind you, look, it's still there. Thousands
of years later, the journey continues.
The journey continues. Yeah. And it's still going to continue whether we're here or not in the future.
That's so fascinating. Well, Dr. Kathia, I really enjoyed taking this time to connect with you and hear about all of the amazing wisdom you've learned from Egypt. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share?
Thank you. No, I'm excited, and I would love to share more of the images too, so people can relate and actually see the visuals, because the visuals are also very powerful as part of the energetic transmissions, if you like.
Right. And they can probably see a lot of those on your website, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. And actually, I have videos of each temple. And if they go on my Instagram TV, or Instagram was a video, frequency _ alchemist, they're able to look at, I've made videos of all these sites and the teachings using my voice and sound healing tools, just channeling the energy and healing frequencies.
Oh, wow. So your Instagram would be really awesome to check out as well. And so they can kind of match up the visual and auditory with what you're describing.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. It was a pleasure.
Wow, what a fascinating episode talking to Dr. Kathia about the mother archetype theme, specifically how it relates to our ancient roots in Egypt. And I don't know about you, but it makes me want to take a trip with Dr. Kathia as the tour guide to go see this amazing energetic vortex place on this earth called Egypt and all the magic it contains. So I hope you enjoyed it. And you can check out her programs on her website at drkathia.com. And I'm also still promoting my preconception program, the Brayton Birth Method. And for more information on that, you can check it out at drlaurabrayton.com.